Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. With behavior like that, she's a walking warning all on her own. Anyone who lets a woman burst into their office and hires her because she says, "Hire me," deserves her. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Entitled person demands boss hires her, blocks door to office when told to leave. A bit of context. My uncle, who we'll call boss for convenience's sake, is the boss for an advertising agency that makes advertisements for various companies. During the weekends, my dad had worked out an arrangement where I would intern at their offices every weekend for a month. My job was to help organize the advertisements and various other admin-related business. So on the third day, I was sorting out the various forms, organizing them via date, and putting them in their respective folders and binders when the digital doorbell rang. The office for the agency was relatively small, comprising of a workspace, a small break room, a meeting room, and the boss's office. It was a rented-out part of a large building that also houses many offices. The rest of the employees had gone to buy lunch from the nearby cafe, so I opened the door. When I opened it, there stood a middle-aged lady, brown hair, wearing a purple dress. She looked very professional, holding a brown backpack with various files and papers inside. For convenience sake, we'll call her EP. Me. "Hi, can I help you?" EP. "Hello, is boss here?" Me. "They're out for lunch, I'm so sorry." EP. "Can you please inform them that I need to meet with them?" Me. "They won't be back for a while. Can I have your name or phone number?" EP scoffs and pushes me aside. She threw the door into the office and sits herself down on one of the waiting chairs at the front desk. EP. "I'll wait here for them." Now keep in mind I was a scrawny teenager and the lady in front of me was 30 years old at least. I knew I couldn't tell her to leave, so I just awkwardly went back to my desk. A few minutes later, boss arrives back from lunch and notices EP. Boss. "Hello there, can I help you?" EP. "Are you B?" Boss. "Yes, how can I help you?" EP. "I'd like to apply for a job." Boss was obviously a little dumbfounded. This woman he had never met before was in their office and wanted to apply for a job. Boss. "Sorry, we aren't accepting new applications." EP. "Stop lying! I'd like to apply for a job." Very clearly dumbfounded. Boss. "As I said before, we are not accepting job applications. I'm sorry." EP. "You clearly are. Look at that boy," pointing at me. "He clearly isn't old enough to work here. It'd be better if you hired me." Boss. "He's an intern, and we're still not accepting applications." EP. "They clearly don't have any experience. If I were you, I'd hire me instead of that boy." Boss was clearly getting frustrated, and I was confused as to why she was targeting me. EP kept going on, insisting that they hire her for a job she didn't even specify. Boss. "Please leave or I'll contact security." This was a lie. We didn't have any security, but they hoped that it'd get EP to leave. EP. "Hire me and then I'll leave." Boss had started to walk towards her, which caused EP to step back until she was at the door. At that moment, the rest of the employees had just gotten back. They had all driven back in a minivan owned by the receptionist since they didn't have vehicles of their own. EP noticed this and used her hands and legs to make a starfish shape and block the door. Boss. "Ma'am, leave now. If not, I will call the police." EP. "Hire me and then I will leave." Boss scoffed, clearly getting very aggravated. One of the employees went to the elevator since there were security guards stationed there. A few minutes later, they had managed to convince them to follow them to the office. Security guard. "Ma'am, please leave right now." EP turns around, clearly shocked security guards were there, so she immediately releases the door and begins to act victim. EP. "Thank God you're here. B was just screaming at me for no reason." Keep in mind, boss was a very cool-headed person and hadn't raised his voice at all this entire time. The employees were shocked by her baseless accusation and started to speak out. Boss wasn't screaming. This woman was blocking the door, demanding that they hire her. SG, seemingly unconvinced by EP, grabbed her by the wrist and pried her off the door. The rest of the employees re-entered the office and the security guard dealt with EP. While I wasn't there to witness it, according to Boss, EP had gotten escorted and the police were called. She was given a fine for disturbing the peace, and we never heard from her again. And our second story. Cop tries to shame me. I complied with the shame. Note, the story is sad and I have sympathy for the victims, but I don't feel like a bad guy. 2 layers of compliance. Years ago, I lived in a very Hispanic neighborhood. Vaguely relevant information with a lot of young children. They were very loud and screamed constantly during all hours of the day and night, not just giggle-playing screams, but blood-curdling horror screams. All the time. One day, I get a knock at my door and see 2 blue-shirt police officers, white guy and Hispanic woman. They ask me if I've seen anything strange, creepers, uncomfortable situations, etc. Things have been pretty normal, and I say as much. They proceed to tell me that a little girl is missing and if I had heard a scream or struggle. I let them know that the children scream every day and constantly, so I wouldn't have paid attention to any particular scream. That's when the Hispanic officer lost it. She got in my face about racist white males ignoring the plight of Hispanics, not caring about the neighborhood and community, and for not calling the police when I heard a child scream. So I agreed to dial 911 at every child scream from that point on. Within 3 days, I had to call 911 at least 15 times. Each time I explained it was relevant to case number XXX with Officer Hispanic Lady that I should report a child screaming in the neighborhood. Eventually, I got a call from a superior officer about abusing 911. I agreed and was told to contact Hispanic officer directly with any other information regarding the investigation. Malicious Compliance Level 2. Now I was authorized to call Hispanic officer directly day or night when I had information regarding the investigation. And I did. Every scream, she got a phone call. 2 in the morning and kids are screaming. Guess who else gets to wake up? Morning, Officer Hispanic Lady. She tries to get me in trouble for harassing her, but I had a nice trail of documentation with 911 and her own supervisor to always keep her informed of screaming children. To help everyone feel a little better, the little girl was kidnapped by her uncle and found safely in another state. Some edits to help. I'll try to give some more information overall. Malicious Compliance Level 1 ended after the first weekend and the MC Level 2 ended by the second week. More than once, witness car accidents, questions about domestic violence, I've been given direct contact information by officers, though in this case I was given the business contact by the other officer. The white male partner during the initial encounter did nothing. I could only tell he was alive because he blinked. He was a non-issue. I probably was too casual about dismissing children screaming, but it was the officer who decided I was ignoring 911-worthy phone call situations. Quit your bitching. Duh, it's malicious compliance, so somebody will call fake. I'm not telling a boring everyday story, but a once-in-a-lifetime one-off. That's the interesting part. Edit number 2, and hopefully last edition. This was as much a CYA for cover your butt as it was malicious compliance. I wanted to make sure everyone knew I wasn't indifferent to my neighbors or trouble in the neighborhood. And our last story. Battle of the Garden, or How to Deal with Vegan Karen. I only thought people are this crafty in the movies. Too many times we've seen the dastardly villain create overly complex traps, but this is next level. Note, I'm not involved in this story and was told to me by an old friend. This friend, we'll call Rico, 36-year-old male, introduced airsoft to me years ago, but is also a major gardening monster of large size. Go ahead, we called him that a lot as well. He got in touch with me a while ago and we were going over what's new. We haven't spoken to each other since the nameless pandemic hit. Rico explained that to help offset some of the costs prior to the nameless disease, he grew a garden of respectable size. While his girlfriend, now wife, loved flowers, he was into vegetable gardening and was looking forward to a wonderful harvest when the nameless pandemic hit. He had a strong hunch about his garden getting hit by those who desire it. What made him think this? Well, one of his neighbors happens to be vegetable garden as well, but had the smarter investment of a greenhouse. The greenhouse was broken into and harvested to hell. No idea who hit it. Rico was now concerned that his garden might get hit too. Because of this nameless pandemic, most airsoft fields closed, and that left his physical activity ruined for the most part. To combat his quarantine body, he set up a small gym station in his basement and began to work out again. During a water break, he heard some noise from his garden, the voices of young teens in his backyard. He ran towards the door to see who got over the fence, only to discover his garden was hit. Fortunately, barely, as they had just got there. His potatoes were taken, and they had just started going on his tomatoes before they heard him and booked it over the back fence. Rico was pissed that he got hit, but now had a solid idea who the culprits were: the kids of Vegan Karen. She was relatively new to the area and quickly made a name for herself, a divorcee who professes the perfect vegan body and houses 3 teens within her home. 2 of those teens have juvie records while the other is biding their time to get out. Rico never had problems with the teens when they moved in. Well, that changed when cops kept appearing in the neighborhood. Rico's lived in his house for 10 years, and it was a rare occasion to hear police sirens for the past year or so, 6 separate occasions. Rico loved airsoft just as much as he loved his gardening and developed a plan to get evidence that those teens are pilfering his garden. One of his most notable tactics is the use of gas-powered mines and tripwired grenades. With encouragement from his girlfriend, Rico sets up his plan, making the garden a military training exercise. Setting up cameras was the easiest part. Putting the traps in very strategic points took him a while, but it paid off in the end. Rico suspected that it would take a week before he got hit again by the vegan teens. It was only a handful of days, and they brought Vegan Karen along. A chorus of screams and exploding powder traps with airsoft BBs flying out of other traps at the body and legs of the intruders rang out in the night air. Eventually, at the end of the night chorus, Vegan Karen was trapped and caught up in plenty of wires while her 2 troublemaking teens wrapped in more tripwires. Basically, Rico had single-handedly fixed his neighborhood with the use of 3 coils of fishing line, 12 airsoft grenades, 8 shout-out airsoft BBs, while 4 were simple bangers, 6 powder mines of varying colors, and 4 claymores. Don't worry, he used certain powders that are environmentally friendly as well as BBs that can decompose. Rico explained to me the feeling of waiting for the police at 3 a.m. is pure enjoyment. Vegan Karen and her 2 teens were booked that night for theft, trespassing, and a couple of other charges he forgets. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.